while ago, probably well over a year ago now, I did a video in which I brought up something. Chase, C-Dude, was posted on a video griping about TNA. And Spinnernet, not to just bring up Spinnernet, but it was Spinnernet that did this. Spinnernet asked Chase, he said, "What, if you hate TNA so much, why do you continue to watch it?" And he responded with one word: hope. He hoped that TNA would get better. He would hope that TNA would become the thing that we all thought and hoped it could be. Belief and that sort of thing, and psychology, we always, talk about in pro wrestling and its importance. But what we don't really talk about is kind of the psychology that you can't control sort of thing. Just kind of understanding the psychological ramifications that things happen to the fan base. For example, and this is just my opinion, a lot of people probably won't share this opinion, but this is just my opinion. Back in WCW, when a lot of people, a lot of diehard, I would say, WCW fans, believed that in a lot of ways the Four Horsemen were WCW. So when the Four Horsemen were continually belittled, when they were used wrongly, when they were used simply as stepping stones to other people, when they were not the force that people wanted to see them with, people lost faith in WCW because that is what they wanted to see. Psychologically speaking, if the Horsemen were not strong and powerful to a lot of wrestling fans, then WCW really wasn't. And it eroded the fan base to the point that when WCW finally started to go downhill, there was nowhere for it to end. There was no, okay, we're just going to lose, the casual fans. They lost the casual fans, and then they continually, but they had already lost a lot of the diehard fans as well because of that, because of the psychological part of it, in which fans psychologically did not believe that they were going to make stars, that sort of thing. So it was kind of odd to me the other day when, because at work when this happened, I got on my phone, I was looking on the internet, and I saw that Shane McMahon had resigned. Now, he's not actually leaving the WWE till the first of the year, but he officially put in his resignation. And reading what people thought, reading what people said, it was pretty evident that people thought this was a pretty big deal. Here, Shane McMahon, while an on-screen character was N.A. McMahon, was definitely, to most people's knowledge, particularly to, people who followed the WWE close and understood kind of how the backstage stuff kind of worked and the power stuff, that while Shane was a McMahon, and that within itself, and he was a major stockholder, and that within itself made him important, it wasn't like it was Vince McMahon or Stephanie McMahon. He didn't have a lot of power in the product that we saw, so to speak. So when he left, I started reading posts, started reading with people, and it was evident that people definitely had lost hope in WWE. And I myself kind of feel that way because through all of this crap that we've had, I would say for the last maybe year, maybe year and a half, where it's really just started to really go downhill. There's been, and some people say more, but I would say that that's really when things just started to snowball. There was always that hope that, as little as it was, that Vince would wake up someday, see that, things weren't going right, and tell Stephanie, you know what, I'm going to go in a different direction and hand the reins over to Shane. Could Shane do any better? A lot of us don't know. But you listen to people who left the WWE, you listen to people that talked about Shane when Shane had more control. A lot of people believe Shane had a better idea of where a lot of people think pro wrestling should go if it's ever going to survive in an environment where you have UFC or MMA, real pro wrestling, so to speak. So him leaving is kind of, you know, again, people have kind of lost hope because, you know, people have lost hope in lots of other things in WWE. Think about it. People are excited, if you're talking about the die-hard wrestling fans, the fans that the WWE should never lose no matter what, to a degree, particularly since they're the only game in town. As far as, you know, I guess TNA, but as far as, you know, a big, major, world-dominating force, that people are really excited about Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson coming into WWE, and they're not even there yet. Keep in mind that they're more excited about that than they are Morrison, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, and any number of probably Legacy and any other number of young guys already in the WWE. Why? Because psychologically, a lot of fans feel they've already screwed up. That those guys are never going to be anything because we've already been told by the WWE through the way they've been used that they're really nothing special. That they're just kind of there. They've tried to make Morrison look better, but has it really worked? I mean, really. So psychologically speaking, the fan base just doesn't believe in a lot of what the WWE is feeding us. And that's a bad thing, because once you lose that, it's very hard to get it back. It's very hard to convince people that, yes, you're going to start creating new stars. Yes, these guys coming in aren't a bunch of nobodies and do belong on the same stage with our top stars. You have to convince people to do that, and a lot of people don't see that. And with Shane gone, a lot of people don't ever see that happening. Because, as I said, a lot of people have always said that they felt that Shane had a better idea of where pro wrestling needed to go to survive. So I don't think I'm alone when I say that him leaving kind of makes me lose hope in the WWE. Not so much in pro wrestling in general, but in the WWE. Now, do I think that means the WWE is going to go out of business tomorrow? No, but I think that we're going to continually see this downward spiral to where, you know, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I don't want to see that. I don't think anyone else wants to see that. I don't think anyone else that sees themselves as a wrestling fan wants to see that. But that's what we're saying. On the flip side of things, most of you, when you see this, it'll be the day of Bound for Glory. I'm doing this the night before, but by the time it uploads and all of that and I edit it, it's going to be the day of Bound for Glory when most of you see this. TNA's coming off of, I'm not going to say a great impact, but kind of the pre-hype show that they did, the Road to Glory or whatever they called it, was really good and was as good as anything. Was as good as the lead up to, you know, Joe and Angle at last year's Lockdown. Now, I didn't personally like that match as much as some people did, but the build up to it was great. As I said at the time, I thought they had already, you know, dropped the ball on giving Joe the title, and people really weren't going to care. Again, psychologically speaking, the fans were already over that. It was past time to do it. Well, here, TNA has a chance, and not that I think that they will actually benefit from this, but you have the wrestling public, I would say, just from what I've seen, even the people that would say, you know, Shane wasn't that important to the business. Maybe he was a bigger, you know, a bigger factor in the WWE being forward than we know, that sort of thing. You know, we don't really know all of that. We probably won't know any of that for a couple of weeks because Shane's not talking, the WWE's not talking, we don't know. It'll probably take a while before we actually find out what actually is going on. That said, there is that mentality, there's that psychological mentality now running through the IWC and the diehard wrestling community, which, you know, TNA definitely doesn't have. They do not have the faith of the diehard, I would say, internet wrestling community. They now have a chance to do something to win them over, to say, okay, we're now going to go out there and we're now going to try to win you over. Maybe they already had this planned, as most of you have probably heard me say before. Apparently, TNA plans things out months and months in advance. It's already pretty evident, and there's already kind of spoilers out there, that AJ is, without a doubt, probably going to win tomorrow. I'd say there's a 99.9% chance he's going to win. Doesn't mean Sting's going to retire, apparently, but it does mean that he's going to probably win. So that's a good start. But it's not the only thing. You know, we have this pay-per-view Bound for Glory, which has stuff on it. But there's a lot of gimmick matches, and there's a lot of there's probably too much stuff on it, to be honest. And there's still, I mean, even with Sting, once you take out the Sting might not retire type thing, you've now taken that off of that match, and then that loses its luster. And really nothing else on that show has a lot of luster on it. Now, that doesn't mean it might not be the greatest show of all time. It just means that going into it, there's nothing to make it just seem like, wow, you know. You have, I've talked about Angle and Morgan. That really doesn't do anything for me. Lashley and Joe, I don't really know how they're going to book that to where it's going to make any sense other than Joe losing, and I because I can't see Lashley losing in a wrestling match and then going on in MMA. I just can't see that. Maybe they'll do that, but I don't see that. Abyss and Foley, as much as I think we all want it to be as good as the tag match from the second One Night Stand, I don't think it's going to be that good. So, there's that, and I don't think the build-up for it has been as good as it should have been. I think there's been glimpses of things they should have done, but it's been added in with the zaniness, with zany things that just kind of take away from it at the same time. You've got a ladder match with 2 titles, except that I'm pretty sure that it's going to be set up to where you don't necessarily are going to win both titles, which I think should be the case. If you win the match, you should win both titles. It's going to be, one team's going to win one set of titles, the other team's going to win the other set of titles, and that's going to be, in my opinion. You've got a knockouts match, which has one too many knockouts in it, in my opinion, in the title match. I think everyone would rather see Kong and Tara and not have ODB in there. Not that ODB doesn't deserve to be in the match, but I think that, there's that. There's the knockouts tag title match, which, I don't have any faith is going to be all that great. I don't think anyone really does. You have the X Division, you have the Ultimate X match, which should be great. It should be a great spot fest. You've got the Legends title match, which just looks like a giant clusterfuck to me. And something that, just looks like it's going to be completely overbooked. And it doesn't need to be on the show. I'm sure I'm leaving off something, but, again, TNA has a chance. If they meet up tomorrow and they go, you know what? Let's see what the fans want, and let's actually try to win over some fans. Maybe we're finally, because from the special we did, maybe we got enough people excited about the show that they're actually going to order the show. Maybe we'll get enough people watching the show. Maybe even we can win over some of the people that are never going to pay for the show and are going to watch the show. Let's go out and let's try to win those fans over. Maybe I can have hope that TNA would do that. Because right now, if you're a pro wrestling fan, hope is starting to run thin.